There are nights when you lie there and you ask yourself, is this ever going to change? And the silence answers you with nothing. That silence is not the end. That silence is the process. You have been carrying something heavy, not a physical weight. Something deeper than that, the weight of not knowing, the weight of trying to trust something you cannot see, the weight of telling yourself to keep going when everything around you is quietly telling you to stop. And the hardest part is not the waiting itself. The hardest part is the doubt that comes with it. That quiet, creeping feeling that maybe you were wrong. Maybe it is not coming. Maybe you misunderstood something somewhere along the way. Maybe you are somehow the exception to every promise ever made. That feeling is not the truth. It is just the noise that lives between where you are and where you are going. Most people never make it through that noise, not because they are weak, not because they lack desire, not because they did not want it badly enough, but because nobody ever explained to them what that noise actually is. That doubt, that heaviness, that long, unbearable silence. It is not a signal to stop. It is a sign that something is shifting. Deep, inside you, beneath the surface of every thought you think, beneath every fear you feel and every question you carry, your subconscious mind is working. It never stopped working. From the moment you made a decision, from the moment something inside you said, I want this to change, your subconscious began moving in that direction, quietly, methodically, without asking for your patience or your understanding. It simply began. But here is what nobody tells you. The subconscious mind does not work on your schedule. It does not send you updates. It does not show you progress reports. It does not tap you on the shoulder and say, everything is on track, keep going. It just works, in the background, in the silence, in the space between your prayers and your results, in the gap between what you asked for and what you can currently see. And when you do not understand that, when nobody has ever taught you that silence is actually movement, you start to interpret the quiet as failure. You start to believe that nothing is happening. You start to look at your circumstances and use them as evidence that it is not working, that you are not enough, that it was never meant for you, but everything is happening right now. Beneath everything you can see. Think about what happens beneath the ground before a tree grows. You plant a seed, you water it, and then you wait, and for a long time there is nothing to see. The ground looks exactly the same. Empty, unchanged, still. Nothing on the surface tells you that anything is happening, but beneath that surface, something extraordinary is taking place. Roots are pushing through the soil. A structure is forming. A foundation is being built that no eye can see, that no hand can touch, that exists entirely beneath the visible world. And then one day, without warning, something breaks through the surface. And to everyone watching it, looks sudden. It looks like it happened overnight. But it did not happen overnight. It was happening the entire time you were waiting. The entire time you were doubting. The entire time you were lying awake asking, is this ever going to change? It was changing. You just could not see it yet. Your life works exactly the same way. The subconscious mind is always building beneath the surface. Every time you chose to believe, even for just a moment, every time you held the feeling of something better inside you, every time you dared to imagine a different version of your life, every time you quietly said to yourself, this is going to change, you were planting something real. And it did not disappear. It did not evaporate because you had a bad day. It did not vanish because doubt crept in. It did not stop because the surface of your life looked unchanged. It went underground. It started to build. It started to push slowly, steadily through the soil of your circumstances, quietly, invisibly, inevitably. The problem is that most people dig it up before it ever grows. They look at the surface, see nothing moving, and decide that nothing is coming. So they stop watering. They stop believing. They pull themselves away from the very thing that was days away from breaking through, and then they spend the rest of their time wondering why it never worked. Do not be that person, because here is what I need you to understand, right now. The version of you that is exhausted, the version of you that is tired of waiting, the version of you that is lying awake at night wondering if any of this is real, that version of you is not failing. That version of you is standing in the most important part of the entire process. The part that separates the people who receive from the people who almost received. The part that does not ask for more action. It does not ask for more effort. It does not ask for more pushing or more forcing or more doing. It asks for something far more difficult than all of that. It asks for trust, not blind trust, not the fragile hope that breaks the moment something goes wrong, not the forced positivity that sounds good in the morning and collapses by the evening. Something deeper than that, a settled, quiet, psychological certainty that what you have accepted inside you is already becoming real outside you. That kind of trust is not something you perform, it is something you build from the inside. By understanding how your inner world actually works, and here is how it works. Your subconscious mind does not think in words. It does not respond to what you say. It does not respond to your affirmations if your feeling contradicts them. It does not respond to your goals if your identity does not match them. It responds to what you accept, what you deeply, consistently, quietly accept as true about yourself and your life. That is what your subconscious takes as its instruction. That is the blueprint it builds from. Not your wishes, not your wants, not the vision board on your wall. Your acceptance. The quiet inner knowing that says, this is who I am. This is what is true for me. This is the kind of life I live. When that acceptance shifts, everything shifts with it, because your outer world is not separate from your inner world. It is a projection of it, always organizing itself, always rearranging itself, always moving in the direction of what you have accepted as real inside you. So the question was never, when is it going to happen? The real question is, what are you accepting right now, in the quiet moments, in the waiting, in the silence? When no one is watching and nothing is changing on the surface, are you accepting that it is coming? Or are you accepting that it is not? Because your subconscious does not judge the answer, it simply builds around it. It takes whatever you have accepted and begins constructing a reality that matches it, piece by piece, quietly, without asking your permission. This means that right now, in this very moment, you have more power than you realize. Not the power to force results, not the power to control how things unfold, but the power to choose what you accept as true. And that choice, that one quiet internal choice, is the most powerful thing you will ever do. Everything is already working out for you. Not because life is perfect. Not because the circumstances look right. Not because anyone else can see it yet. But because something inside you already decided. And that decision is alive. It is moving. It is building beneath the surface of everything you can see, pushing slowly and surely toward the light. You do not need to see it to know it is real. You just need to stop pulling it up before it grows. You have spent so much time watching the outside, checking, waiting, looking for movement in a world that doesn't always show you its work, and every time the surface stays still, something inside you quietly contracts, a small tightening in the chest, a whisper that says, maybe not, a slow erosion of the certainty you worked so hard to build. That erosion is not your enemy, but you need to understand what it is. It is the old self trying to come back. Not because the old self is evil, not because it wants to destroy you, but because it is familiar. And the subconscious mind, above almost everything else, is drawn to what is familiar. This is one of the most important things you will ever learn about how your inner world actually operates. The subconscious does not automatically prefer what is good for you. It prefers what it knows. It prefers the patterns it has run 1,000 times before. The feelings it has felt so often they feel like home. The identity it has carried so long it mistakes it for truth. So when you begin to change, when you begin to accept something new about yourself and your life, The old patterns do not simply disappear. They push back, they create resistance, they generate doubt. They manufacture the feeling that something is wrong, that you are moving in the wrong direction, that you should return to what you have always known. And most people listen to that feeling. They call it intuition. They call it reality. They call it being practical. But it is not intuition. It is habit. There is a difference between what is true and what is familiar. Most people have never learned to tell them apart. They feel the discomfort of something new, and they interpret it as a sign that the new thing is wrong. But discomfort is not a sign that you are wrong. Discomfort is a sign that you are changing. And change, real change, deep psychological change, always feels unstable before it feels natural. Always. There is no version of transformation that feels completely comfortable from the beginning, because transformation means becoming someone you have never been before, and the part of you that is used to who you were will always resist who you are becoming, not forever, but in the beginning, in the middle, in the long, quiet stretch of time when nothing on the outside has changed yet and everything on the inside is being rebuilt. That is the part you are in right now, and it is not a sign to stop. It is a sign to hold. Holding is not the same as forcing. This is something most people misunderstand completely. They think that trust means trying harder. They think that belief means pushing more. They think that faith means filling every quiet moment with action, because stillness feels too much like giving up. But real trust is not frantic. Real trust is still. It is the person who plants the seed, and then goes about their life without digging up the soil every morning to check. It is the person who sends something important, and then lets it go, knowing that what needed to be set in motion has already been set in motion. It is the person who does not need constant confirmation because their certainty does not live in the external world. It lives inside them, settled, quiet, unmovable. That is the state your subconscious responds to most powerfully, not desperation, not urgency, not the frantic energy of someone who needs something to happen because they cannot feel okay without it. The subconscious responds to settledness, to the quiet inner posture of someone who already knows. Think about the difference between those two energies for a moment. One person is tense. Their desire has an edge to it. They want something, but underneath the wanting there is a current of fear. Fear that it will not come. Fear that they are not enough for it. Fear that time is running out. That fear does not disappear when they affirm. It does not go away when they visualize. It sits underneath everything, and it is that fear, not their words, not their rituals, that the subconscious reads as the real instruction, and the subconscious delivers accordingly. More of the feeling of not having, more of the experience of waiting, more of the reality that matches the fear underneath. Now think about the other person. They want the same thing, but their wanting does not have that edge. It is more like a quiet knowing, a settled sense that what they have accepted inside is already becoming real outside. They are not pretending nothing matters. They are not performing detachment. They simply understand that the delivery is not their department. Their department is the inner state. Their department is the acceptance. Their department is the identity they carry when no one is watching and nothing is happening on the surface. And because that is where they live, because that settled knowing is what they return to again and again throughout the day, the subconscious has a clear, clean, consistent signal to build from, and it builds quietly, powerfully, without needing to be reminded or pushed or forced. This is what Neville Goddard understood so deeply. He did not teach people to try harder. He taught people to accept more completely. He said that your assumption, your inner acceptance of something as already true, is what hardens into fact, not your effort, not your strategy, not how many hours you spend working toward it. Your assumption, the thing you accept as real in the privacy of your own mind, that is the seed. That is the instruction. That is the blueprint your subconscious builds from every single moment of every single day, and here is what makes this so powerful. You can change your assumption right now, not tomorrow, not after things get better, not once you have more evidence, or more confidence or more time. Right now, in this moment, in the silence between one breath and the next, you can decide what you accept as true. You can decide that everything is working out, not because the evidence supports it, not because other people agree, not because you can see exactly how it is going to unfold, but because your subconscious does not need evidence. It needs acceptance. And acceptance is always a choice. It is the choice to say, inside yourself, quietly, and with full conviction, this is already done. Not someday, not hopefully. Not if everything goes right, already done. That shift in assumption is not small. It is everything, because the moment your inner world fully accepts something as real, the outer world has no choice but to begin organizing around it. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is the actual mechanics of how consciousness works. Your reality is always a match for your deepest accepted beliefs, not your surface thoughts, not your daily affirmations, your deepest accepted beliefs, the ones that live beneath your words, the ones that color every experience you have, the ones that make certain outcomes feel inevitable and certain outcomes feel impossible. Those beliefs are not fixed, they were installed by experience, by repetition, by the things you were told and the things you told yourself for long enough, that they became invisible, and because they were installed, they can be changed, not by force, not by willpower, but by a consistent, deliberate, patient return to a new acceptance. This is what you are doing right now. Every time you choose not to give up, every time you pull yourself back from the edge of surrender, every time you look at the unchanged surface of your life and quietly say, it is still coming. You are installing a new acceptance, slowly, steadily, one return at a time, and every single return matters. Not one of them is wasted. Not one moment of quiet trust goes unregistered by the subconscious that is always, always listening to the signal you are sending. So do not measure your progress by what you can see. Measure it by where you return to when the doubt comes, because the doubt will come. That is not failure. That is the process. What matters is not that you never doubt. What matters is that when you do, you know what to do with it. You feel it. You acknowledge it. And then you return. Quietly. Without drama. Without self-punishment. You return to the knowing. To the settled inner certainty that says, everything is working out. It was always working out, even when I could not see it, even when I could not feel it, even in the silence, even in the waiting. It was always already done. There is a version of you that never doubted. Not a perfect version, not an unreachable version, not some idealized image that exists only in imagination. A real version. The version that exists beneath all the noise, beneath all the conditioning. Beneath all the years of being told that wanting something does not mean you will get it, that hoping does not mean it is coming, that things do not just work out. That version of you never believed any of that. That version of you always knew, and that knowing is still there. It did not leave when things got hard. It did not disappear when the waiting stretched longer than you expected. It did not die when the doubt came in and made itself at home. It went quiet. But quiet is not gone. Quiet is just waiting for you to stop making so much noise so it can be heard again. This is what most people miss. They spend so much energy trying to create certainty from the outside. They look for signs. They look for movement. They look for something in the external world to confirm what they are trying to believe internally. But certainty does not come from the outside. It never did. Certainty is an inner posture. It is a decision you make about what you accept as real before the evidence arrives, and that decision, made before the evidence, is the most powerful position you can ever stand in, because that is not hope, that is faith. And faith is not the fragile thing people think it is. Faith is not crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Faith is standing in the certainty of something unseen with the same steadiness you would stand in something you could touch. That steadiness is what changes everything. Think about what it feels like to know something completely, not to hope it, not to wish it. Not to want it so badly that the wanting itself becomes a kind of ache, to know it. The way you know the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not lie awake at night worrying about the sun. You do not check constantly to make sure it is still coming. You do not feel anxious about whether the sunrise will happen. You simply know, and because you know, you rest, you sleep, you live your day. You move through your life without that particular fear because the outcome is not in question. That is the state your subconscious needs from you, that quality of knowing, that rested, settled, unquestioned certainty, not about the sun, but about your life, about the thing you have been waiting for, about the change you have been moving toward, about the version of your reality that you have accepted inside but have not yet seen outside. The subconscious needs you to know it the way you know the sun will rise, without checking, without forcing, without the desperate energy of someone who is not sure the light is coming. And I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, it is easy to know about the sun. The sun has never let me down. But the things I want, the things I am waiting for, those have disappointed me before, and that is real. That history is real. Those disappointments happened. The times you hoped and it did not come, the times you believed and it still fell apart, those experiences are written into your nervous system. They created the doubt you carry now. But here is what you need to understand about that doubt. It is not information about the future. It is memory about the past. And your subconscious cannot build your future from your past memory. It can only build from your current acceptance, from what you decide is true right now. So every time you let the past dictate what you accept today, you are handing your subconscious an old blueprint and asking it to build you a new life. It cannot do that. You have to give it a new blueprint, a new acceptance, a new inner reality. A new version of the story you tell yourself in the quiet moments when no one else is listening, and that story begins with this. Everything is working out, not someday, not eventually, not if you are lucky or worthy or good enough. Right now, in this moment. Beneath everything you can see, everything is already working out. Say that to yourself, not as a wish. Say it as a fact. Feel the difference. A wish reaches forward with longing. A fact stands still with certainty. You are not reaching for something that might come. You are acknowledging something that is already in motion. Because it is already in motion. The moment something shifted inside you, the moment you decided even, once that things were going to change, that decision sent a signal, and signals do not disappear. They travel. They organize. They begin pulling toward you the people, the circumstances, the moments and the openings that match the inner world you have accepted. You cannot always see this happening. You will not always feel it happening. But it is happening. The same way your heart beats without your instruction. The same way your lungs breathe without your permission. The same way 1,000 invisible processes keep you alive every moment of every day without you managing any of them. Your subconscious is working the same way, constantly, quietly, without needing your supervision or your anxiety or your doubt. It just needs your acceptance. Give it that, and then let it work. Letting it work does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what is in front of you without the weight of desperation attached to it. It means moving through your day from the identity of someone who already knows things are working out, not performing that identity, not faking it, not pretending everything is perfect when it is not, but carrying underneath everything you do that quiet, settled, unshakable knowing. This is coming. It is already done. I do not need to see it to know it is real. That is the energy that moves mountains, not the frantic energy of someone who is afraid they are running out of time. The calm, certain energy of someone who knows that time is not the obstacle. Their inner world is the only variable that matters, and your inner world is changing. It has been changing every time you chose to come back to the belief, every time you pulled yourself out of the spiral of doubt. Every time you sat in the silence and refused to let it mean failure. every time you said to yourself quietly, without needing anyone to hear it, "It is still coming." Every single one of those moments was a deposit into the new identity, into the new acceptance, into the new blueprint your subconscious is building from. None of it was wasted. None of it disappeared. All of it is compounding beneath the surface, building the foundation of a reality that is closer than you think. You are not at the beginning of this. That is what I need you to feel right now. Not the exhaustion of someone who has so far to go. The quiet confidence of someone who has already come further than they realize. You have already done the hardest part. You did not give up. When every reasonable voice around you said it was not working, you stayed. When the silence stretched and the surface stayed still, you kept watering. When the doubt came in its loudest form, you found your way back to the knowing. That is not nothing. That is everything. Because the people who receive, the people whose lives genuinely transform, they are not the ones who never struggled. They are not the ones who never doubted. They are not the ones who had it easy, or who had more talent or more luck or more time. They are the ones who stayed, who held the inner reality steady when the outer reality gave them every reason to let go, who understood that the gap between where they were and where they wanted to be was not a distance measured in effort, it was a distance measured in acceptance. And they closed that gap. Not by doing more, by becoming more certain. You can close that gap right now, not tomorrow. Not after things change, not once you have more evidence or more confidence, right now. In this breath, in this moment, in the decision you make right now about what you accept. As true, everything is working out, not as a hope, as a fact. Your subconscious is listening. It has always been listening, and it will build, with absolute precision, exactly what you give it. Give it certainty. Give it acceptance. Give it the quiet, unshakable knowing that what you planted is already growing, because it is. It was always growing, even in the silence, even in the waiting, even on the nights when you lay there and asked, "Is this ever going to change?" It was changing. It is changing. And you, the version of you that refused to give up, that stayed when staying was the hardest thing, that kept returning, to the knowing even when the knowing felt far away, that version of you is the one who receives. That version of you is not coming. That version of you is already